My name is Scott Bradley, and this is the Gersnet Podcast. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Forrest Precision Engineering. And tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Stewart. Stuart, how are we?
What a build-up. What else can I say? Thank you very much, and good night.
Bye, how's things, mate?
It's all good, all good. No complaints today or this weekend so far. Whether I'm still complaining at the end of the week, another thing, depends maybe what Santa brings me, but so far it's been quite good.
Nah, good stuff, mate, good stuff. I'm actually not that long back from Tenerife, so the Holy Blues have definitely kicked in, that's for sure. Still got a wee bit of a tan though, so not too bad at all. But overall, it was a good weekend in terms of the footballing department.
Indeed, yes. It's I have to say, looking at it as a whole, it's one of these weekends that in general, was obviously better than the performance was at Ibrox, I have to say. When you take into account the fact that there was 3 points picked up and also a small bit of ground gained on the league leaders, and the fact that you're now ensconced in second place again, it wasn't such a bad weekend. Not that I saw that coming at all, halfway through the game on Saturday afternoon. And I don't think many people, if you actually told the truth, would say that. But all in all, you have to say this was a decent weekend.
Yeah, because that's the thing. In terms of the game itself, yesterday, obviously, Rangers beat Dundee 1-0. Wasn't a great game, but that's the thing, Stuart. 3 points and a clean sheet. You can't really complain too much.
No, and it's something, when you watch enough football and as I've done over the years, and you take into context different results. Yeah, you'll remember the big wins and the derby wins and all the rest of it. You remember all of these things. But in amongst all those wins, there are certain results that are actually, if you like, more significance than you give them at the time. And it can really be a 1-0 win, battling it out away from home, and picking up the 3 points, which you think, that wasn't very good. But come the end of the season, when you tot it up, it was actually a hell of a lot better than what you thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely. And I also just want to touch on Jack Butland, obviously send my congrats out to him and his family, as obviously before the game he had to leave as his wife went into labour, and Liam Kelly came into the team to make his debut, and honestly he couldn't ask for a better debut. Obviously clean sheet and a 3 points.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and I think above all else in terms of football, the guy who's the backup goalkeeper, a bit like American football, if you're backup quarterback or whatever you are, if you're the second string, at some point, one, you've got to make your debut and get into the swing of things. But secondly, there's also a lot riding on you, because there's people asking the question, what have you done to sort of, get the position, first of all, at Rangers, but be back up to somebody like Jack Butland. And I thought about it yesterday. Ironically, long before the sort of story that unfolded came about, I was out at the fort with my daughter yesterday doing a bit of shopping yesterday morning. And lo and behold, who did we walk past? But Lindsay Hamilton. And I remember, I saw Lindsay passing by, and he was too busy chatting to say hello. But I always thought there's a guy, who could walk through the fort on the Saturday before Christmas, and very few people would recognise him. Now I know he's a bit older than what he was when he first went to Rangers, but equally there's a whole raft of goalkeepers who were, if you like, the number twos or the backup goalkeepers, the guys who were significantly, better, probably in talent-wise, but also better known as well, just because they were the number one at Ibrox. And lo and behold, by sort of 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, there you are, thinking to yourself, Jack Butland didn't make it. His deputy comes in, Liam Kelly. There is never a good time for you to make your debut. You could have the easiest looking League Cup tie to come in and it turned into the most difficult game you've ever played in your life. But I thought he equipped himself yesterday. And I was particularly satisfied with the way he performed, and as much of the fact that he was thrust into the limelight almost like within minutes. He was suddenly you're in goal, and also the way he handled himself, he looked as if he'd been doing it. And I know he had a career long before he arrived at Ibrox. But the fact of the matter was, you did not notice any difference. And again, you could actually narrow it down and say there were times where he actually was the difference between the two sides quite easily. And so a good debut all in.
Oh, definitely. And of course, I just want to touch on the first half, Stuart. Obviously, Rangers were the better team, created a few chances. And then obviously at the start of the second half, we got the goal. And Czerny, he's a man at the moment, and that's his 10th goal of the season. How crucial has he been at Rangers since he arrived in the summer?
Extremely crucial. I mean, I've discussed on here before, and people, they hark back to one or two things that I've said. There was a period in time when I did not think he was comfortable playing in front of Tavernier. I thought he, at times, looked maybe overawed by the fact that the captain was steaming past him or getting into positions where he really couldn't go forward. He had to hold station in case somebody broke on them. I think the fact that he's actually had a spell where he was the main man in the creative force out wide, I think he's come onto a game since then. And I now think that he sees it as if to say, well, I'm the guy who's playing this particular position. I'm either going to be the maker or taker of chances, and I'm going to do it my way. And he's come onto a game, whether he's playing to get make Ibrox his permanent home, or whether he's got eyes elsewhere, who knows? But the fact of the matter is, he's actually contributing. Just noticed somebody, the goalie we signed from Stenhousemuir. I actually was telling my youngest daughter Zara yesterday about the fact that Lindsay thought he was going to be making his debut for Rangers, I think a League Cup tie, and was suddenly introduced maybe 2 hours before kick-off to this guy called Bonnie Ginsberg, who was Israel's #1 keeper, and Lindsay didn't get to make his debut. And there's a number of, if you go through history, there's a whole bunch of goalkeepers who've been at Ibrox and never once got to play for the first team. And some of them you look back on and you think, oh, why he was there. And apart from appearing in the team picture at the end of July, or doing the warm-ups before the game or at half time, you don't actually realise that they're actually there.
Yeah, and obviously you see Czerny when he first came here. I think he was probably struggling with the demands and the pressure of what it's like playing for Rangers Football Club, but I think he's picked up on that really quickly. And for me, Stuart, I think he's been the best signing of the summer, hands down.
I think Scott, if you don't recognise that and don't pick up on that fact, you're dead in the water.
Yep.
I don't think, the fans will say, oh, well, he's a new signing, we're not that hard on him. Yes, you are. You don't take a matter of weeks. You've made up your mind, 90 minutes, 180 minutes, whatever it might be. You've made up your mind if this guy is going to be good enough to play for the team that you follow and the team that you love. And I think Czerny has grown into being a key member of that that particular team. I also think, and this is maybe something we'll touch upon, the last couple of games that Rangers played and the results thereafter. I think if you look at the game yesterday, that was more typical of the type of games that Rangers play week in, week out, and within the Scottish game, where you've got a team that's going to counter, the drop of the hat, but for most time, they just dig in, try not to lose a goal, try to keep it tight, try to frustrate, And to that end, Czerny is becoming more of a key player because he is one of the few players that Rangers actually have that can unpick opposition defences and actually not only gets himself into a position where he creates for others, but also is quite happy to pull the trigger as well and take a shot. And there's a lot of guys, and this is a criticism I would make in the past 3, 4, 5 seasons. There's guys that have managed to get a chance and not done that. They've almost like been shy to have a dig at goal. It's almost as if, well, if I do the leading up work and get away with that, then I can walk off the pitch and I've got a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. Whereas if I try a wild shot and the keeper saves it or it disappears into the broom loan or something like that, people will be on my back and they just don't take that chance. Whereas Czerny is actually a guy, over the piece has actually not been frightened to, have a dig.
Yeah, no, you're spot on because I think Rangers have been crying out for a player like Czerny for years, and obviously see that right wing position. Like that's obviously a position that Rangers have struggled to fill for probably since Daniel Candeias was at the club, so ever since he left. But yeah, it's like Czerny is a breath of fresh air to watch, and he's exciting. He can just make something happen out of nothing, and yeah, I really do like him, and I really hope that Rangers do try to sign him permanently in the summer.
Candeias was one of those guys that actually I think was a victim of the time he spent at Rangers. That he was actually maybe a bigger contributor and a better player than a great many, probably including myself, gave him credit for. And it was only the fact when you actually reflect, you think to yourself, that guy could play, hence the reason he went elsewhere. But no, I think you're right. You narrow it down there to the sort of wide right position or the right side of midfield and the creator in that position. I think you could add in several other positions that Rangers have struggled to fill over a period of time. But it's good to see somebody who's in there and actually doing a decent job.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing, Stuart, right? See, ever since that Dundee United draw, Rangers have looked like a totally different team. And what do you think the reason is for that? Because if I'm being honest, recently we've been playing some decent stuff.
Well, your bar is set at a different level to mine when you say decent stuff. I think I don't think there's any getting away from the fact that there was an improved performance in the game against Tottenham and the game against Celtic as well. Now, whether that was down to skill and ability or just putting a bit extra into having a shift and going that extra yard, just trying that bit harder, I think it probably falls into the latter than anybody suddenly turning into the player of the season. I think if you look at also who their opponents were on paper and given what they've got in terms of resource, yeah, they would have started favourite, but I didn't think either of them were particularly brilliant when they come up against Rangers. They maybe even made Rangers look good. Yesterday, it was back to almost like the turgid grinding out of a result. Rangers were profligate again in front of goal. I mean, I do not think I have seen over a period of time strikers as bad as the crop that's currently at Ibrox. And I say that having seen guys that were pilloried for being, how bad they were supposed to be, and they still could take chances that some of these guys, just don't seem to be able to connect with.
Mm-hmm. And I just want one player I want to touch on in particular is Yanis Hadji. I think he's been really impressive since he's came back into the team. And I don't like using this saying, but I'm going to use it anyway. He feels like
Don't use it.
He feels like a new signing, mate. But have you been impressed with Hadji since he's came into the team?
Yeah, listen. Hadji has had periods of time where he hasn't been in the team, and then he comes into the team, into the squad, and he's suddenly supposed to morph into his dad, having literally done the warm-up, run about, made a couple of passes, hit a couple of shots at the goalkeeper, and suddenly he's going to be asked to turn into one of FIFA's top 10 players of the season. You know, the name, I have to say, is like a millstone around his neck. It's like a land anchor. Anything he does do is, has to be looked at through this kind of prism of his dad and what he achieved. And, so anything the boy does do, he's immediately going to be compared. Why do I think he's actually playing quite well? Because he's actually getting a run of games. There's actually a bit of confidence being shown in him. And, I'm not saying that the manager's turned around to him and gone, oh, why don't you, listen, I'll tell you what, you are going to be in the team week in, week out, and I'm going to make you the mainstay of the team. You're one of the first names down in the team sheet. I don't think that's happened. What I do think is he's played himself into contention for being a starter and being a guy who is actually contributing to the overall performance. And that's only because of a run of games. I think anybody, and I don't care what anybody says, if you're not playing regularly, it's very difficult to hit the switch and turn on a performance. In fact, there's some guys playing week in, week out who don't have a switch to hit, and are they're almost getting a game of a Saturday or of a midweek through good attendance and good behaviour. So, all in all, I think Haji's come on to a game. The whole thing is, though, and this, I could liken him to others at Ibrox just now. As soon as they play 3 or 4, 5 games and are pretty decent, and the fans can see what they're doing, immediately that equates to other people elsewhere seeing what they can do, and all of a sudden they're being linked with moves away, which is never good, never great. Unfortunately, that's where Rangers are at just now. They're using guys, the word testimonial isn't going to survive at Rangers going forward, because nobody stays there long enough other than maybe James Tavernier. But the fact of the matter is that players, if they come on to a game and they put in a couple of performances, they immediately linked with a big money move away, which previously was money used to find down the back of the couch at Ibrox.
Yeah, no, definitely. But that's the thing with Hadji, though. Like, the one thing I really like about him is he wants to be here. And to see that whole situation in the summer, the way it was handled, it was pretty embarrassing. All the social media posts going back and forth, it wasn't good to see. But then obviously it got to that point where Rangers obviously resolved the issue, and then obviously Hadji's back in the team. But I just hope he keeps up this good run of form, because there was no way, Stuart, we could have had an international footballer like rotting away with the B team. That just could not have happened.
Just pick up on something somebody said there, and I'm just looking for it. Don't agree with Stuart. We have definitely improved. We made Spurs and them look poor. Yeah. At the end of that week, you had, in effect, 1 point from a European tie and nothing else to show for it. That's how much you've improved. Yesterday, were those telltale signs of this vast improvement still there? Wasn't the same game as I was watching. So, listen, the improvement might be there. It is almost negligible. It's moved about a percentage on the dial if you take that into account. Don't let's not kid ourselves that running about a bit harder and make a few more tackles and staying in a game longer than what you normally used to stay in a game is an improvement. If those were 2 league games against Celtic and against Tottenham, you'd have taken 1 point and you'd basically played 180 plus extra time in one of the games. So I'm not ready for getting the open top bus out, even if it does drive through a low bridge somewhere. I don't think anybody should be kidding themselves on with that. So let's just have a wee bit measured in our approach. Maybe it's because I've seen better Rangers teams in this one. You haven't.
I would say we have improved, but I'm not getting too excited because we've all seen this movie before with Rangers. So I will admit we have improved, and I would say the standout performance over the last a few weeks or so would be obviously Kilmarnock, because Kilmarnock are no mugs, and we played some good stuff that night and we did batter them. But yeah, I'm not getting too excited just yet. But I do want to get your thoughts on this, Stuart. When Dessers came on yesterday, he was booed by a small section of the crowd. For me, I don't like that. I don't think Rangers fans should ever boo a Rangers player, no matter how bad they are or whatever the circumstances are. But obviously, you've seen many teams over the last God knows how many decades, respectfully. But what's your take on Rangers fans booing Dessers? Do you think that is something that should happen?
It's not. Listen, it is nothing new. It really is nothing new. I remember. Ali McCoist is Rangers' record goal scorer, and I remember him going through a period of time where he was absolutely pilloried. Ranger attack was Alison McCoist and Sandra Clark. That's how fans, identified with him, because he just wasn't doing the business. All of a sudden, McCoist comes on to a game, scores goals, starts scoring goals, he's the main man, and the rest is history. Do I see that with Dessers? No, I don't. But if you're a supporter, criticism is fine. But if you're expecting the guy and you can put it in social media, you can say it to your pals, you can do whatever you like. Come the time that guy crosses the white line and runs onto the pitch, you need to be supporting him. And, he's not suddenly going to turn into Gabriel Batistuta. I recognise the frustrations. And I'll say this just now, Scott. I think some of the frustrations with Dessers is there's a whole bunch of supporters out there who, under normal circumstances, would have turned around and said, get him out of here. They're still saying that, perhaps. But there's fans who've actually stuck with him and said, give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, I had it levelled at me. The guy scored 19 goals. Aye, and if he'd taken, his chances, he'd have probably ended the season. Exactly. He would have ended the season with 40 plus goals. Some of the ones he's given up on, or some of the ones he's missed, are scandalous. How many times have we seen him 1-on-1 with a goalkeeper and the goalkeeper makes a save? Listen, don't get me wrong. For all the goals he scored for Rangers, Chris Boyd wasn't exactly Maradona when it came to 1-on-1 with, but he scored his percentage, whereas you're hoping that the goalkeeper goes early and makes a dive to the wrong side, and even then you wonder if Dessers would score. But when he runs onto that pitch, you might think he's crap, but he's your crap, and maybe you should get behind him.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I say it all the time on here, right? I'm 27 years old, right? But Dessers has to
only 27.
I'm only 27.
My God, honestly, God, I was going to get you carbon dated.
But I am 27, right? So Dessers is hands down the most frustrating player I've ever seen at Ibrox. Like, he could stink the joint out for about 90 minutes, but then he might just get you a goal. But for me, I've had a lot of patience for the guy, and I've tried to defend him and stick by him. But no, we need to cut ties with him now, mate. Like, I just cannot go. Like, that's the thing, right? See, Iggerman, also we'll come on to Iggerman in a minute. Iggerman, looks like he's got real potential, right? And it wouldn't shock me if he was to go in January, right? Danilo, I believe there's a player there, but he's not all that reliable because he is injury prone. And mate, I cannot go another season with Dessers leading the line. We had no other choice but to do it last year, and it was pretty painful. So it was, because he got, like, I think it was like 22 goals, right? That's decent, right? But that's not good enough if you're going to be Rangers' like main striker. But that's the thing, though. Like, as you said, like, if he might think he's rubbish, but he's your rubbish. So like, when it comes to January, do you think he will be here at the end of it?
I think I have to say, I think he will either be moved on or will move on. Now, you look at the Rangers transfer policy last summer, and the guys that left Ibrox to save on money, why would you not want to save money in Dessers? In fact, you'd almost throw a sweetener in there for somebody just to take him. And, it was like during the week, he's been linked with a move to St Etienne. Listen, if he'd been linked with a move to St Trinian's, there'd have been guys jumping the bus and basically strapping him into his seat and taking him down there. He just does not have it. I don't care what anybody says. For me, he does not have what it takes to be a leading striker in a team, any team, anywhere. Honestly, he and I have to say, it's the first time I've been on since last Sunday. What was going on? I know there's goalkeepers out there that are fantastic dead ball experts. I know there's goalkeepers out there who frustrate the hell out of other goalkeepers because when the players are practicing penalties or free kicks, they're lining up and and take them and wrap them into the top corner and all the rest of it. For your striker, your number one striker, the guy who wears number 9 in his shirt, not to want to take a penalty when your team's desperate to win a trophy, that is just dereliction of duty. Guys, if they still had a thing like service revolvers, I'd imagine somebody would have taken theirs to him last week for not taking a penalty. Regardless of the circumstances, I don't care if it's he didn't fancy it, nerves got the better of him, it was this or it was that, and it was the next thing. If you are not capable of putting the ball on the spot and hitting it from 12 yards at that time in a game, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and honestly, you nailed it, because I thought it was it says a lot about Dessers, right? And it really did not paint him in a good light. The fact that Yilmaz, the left back, had to step up and take a penalty, and Jack Butland, the goalkeeper, had to step up and take one. I remember when I was watching it in Tenerife, when he stepped up, you can see in his face, Butland's raging, just I should not be taking a penalty here. But credit to him, he smashed it, and it was a very good penalty. But that's the thing with Dessers. We need to move him on in January. And another thing that baffles me, Stuart, is the fact that Michael Beale flew out, right, to, I think it was Italy, where he was playing at the time. He flew all the way out to Italy to try and convince him to come to us. That. Yeah. That also says a lot about Michael Beale as a manager.
I have. Well, maybe not as a manager or a coach, but as a talent spotter, I think he's. I think he's. I've always thought that Michael Beale would have been fantastic in one of these singing competitions that's on the television to see who he would bring out to sing. Of a week and say this is my choice. It's probably somebody who would only hit bum notes and somebody who couldn't remember the words, because the players that he identified as being targets and guys that he wanted are non-existent. I mean, Dessers as well, and this is there is no Einstein-like equation in all of this. But there are strikers who have been at Ibrox who have a fantastic reputation, and maybe they scored their fair share of goals, but did they score in the abundance that, say, a McCoy might have scored, or a Boyd might have scored, or other players like that? They scored goals, but they were important goals. It was a goal that you needed at a particular moment in time to get yourself 3 points, or to get yourself back in a game than you were losing. Off the top of my head, I'd think one, Kevin Drinkle, for instance. You look at the goals that Kevin Drinkle scored and how appreciated he was by Rangers fans back in the day. And, I remember one goal he scored late on against Motherwell that won 3 points at a time when Rangers were really under pressure in terms of trying to win the title. It doesn't matter how many you score sometimes. It's really important, though, when you score them, and the fact that you can score them at these times. And that'll get you a pass mark with Rangers fans. That'll get you a pass mark with most fans if you manage to score these goals. And he just passes up on too many chances.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's another player that I want to touch on. I know you're not his biggest fan, Stuart, but I'm James Tavernier. And as we all know, he's been coming under a lot of criticism this season. And some of it, I can admit, is justified. But ever since Clement dropped him, and then now he's brought him back into the team, I think you can admit as well, he's been playing really well.
He's maybe still one of my top 10 right backs that I've seen at Ibrox, but he has played better. I do wonder, however, and this is something I think if you look at a much bigger picture and take it over a wider period of time, I do wonder if James Tavernier just needed a rest. I do wonder if he just needed to freshen up, and that for a period of time when he wasn't playing well, Rangers could not drop him because they didn't really have anybody else. And I think maybe him being dropped, being allowed to take a breather, but also a kind of double-edged sword that, see, you're not beyond getting dropped for key games. Maybe that's focused his mind a wee bit rather than just going through the motions. And also he might feel a different and a better player because he's had that rest. Yeah, he has played better. And but I'll stick to what I've always said. He's a Rangers captain who has presided over one of the worst periods in the club's history, and that for me can't be forgotten about.
But see, to be fair to Tavernier though, like he's not the one who signs the players, picks a manager, and throughout over the last 9 to 10 years, he's played in some really bad teams, and it's not his fault that. Like, for example, one thing that always grinds my gears is like when people always say, "Oh, Tavernier, he's like a serial loser, this and that," but that's like it's not his fault that he's had crap around him. And see when you think about over the years as well, how much he's bailed Rangers out, it's incredible. So of course I can understand some of the criticism surrounding Tav, but I just hate how some Rangers fans out there try to blame him for absolutely everything when it's not his fault.
Correct, and you're absolutely right by that. But see, when it is his fault, take the rap. Don't just because you're a Tavernier fanboy come out and say, oh, look at this, look at that, look at the next thing. He's made mistakes. He has made blatant mistakes that anybody else would have hung their head for, not try to pass it on to somebody else. So, sometimes you need to man up if you're a captain. And I do think on occasions he's been negligent in that front as well. He is playing well just now. He needs to maintain this. No point in getting back in the fan side and playing and, doing what you're doing. The other thing I think, interestingly enough, and this is in like a weird way, when Tavernier was scoring his 130 goals in 3 seasons or whatever it was, he was making mistakes left, right, and centre. He's not scoring as many goals and he's not making any mistakes. So maybe he's been concentrating on his day job to actually stop the opposition rather than trying to do everything like take every throw in, sell a couple of pies, a couple of programmes, take a corner, take every free kick that's going, goal kicks and all the rest of it. Just do your day job. And maybe as a result, he's actually looking a better player.
I think you're spot on in terms of about Tavernier having a break out the team, where I think that was beneficial to him because when you look at throughout the years, right, just look at the amount of games he would play. Like he's a brilliant athlete, right, and he's really injured. So I think he just needed a rest out the team.
I completely agree that sometimes the phrase, "Oh, he's the first name down in the team sheet," doesn't do you any good. It means you're almost being called upon, patched up, rubbed down, thrown back in again, when mentally, physically, psychologically, you've taken an absolute pounding. And Rangers might be benefiting for the fact that they've actually taken a gamble and dropped him for certain games. Just as I say, double-edged sword. One, you are expendable. We don't need you for every single game. But secondly, see, when we do say that, take the rest you're deserved, and and things will come back around to be in your favour.
Yeah, because see the season that we made the Europa League final, I think he played like 60 odd games or something. It was just a wild stat. And it's just like, no, like you need a wee rest out the team, like here and there. You don't need to play every game.
The psychological part of it, I remember being in and around the Rangers team in Ibrox every single day. when Rangers did the treble 92-93 season, and that 44 game unbeaten spell, went through Europe undefeated as well. And by about March time, April time, all the Rangers players were doing, and I mean all they were doing, was having a bath, having a rub down, going for a walk, going to get a rolling sausage, and that was their day. They'd reached a level of fitness and performance where they could not improve. They were taking down to Titwood cricket ground or Hamilton Crescent at the time whenever they were training, and having a runabout just to stretch the legs, just so photographers could take some pictures of them and make it look as if Rangers were training. What did they do? Absolutely nothing. Why? Because they didn't need to improve in their fitness. What they needed was a rest psychologically, because it was big game after big game after big game. And if you spoke to any of the players that were in the team at that time, they would, each and every one of them would say the same thing. It's brilliant in playing in big matches, but see, the next day you're dead. Your concentration levels have to be tip top. You need to be about yourself, knowing what you're doing, knowing what the team's doing. And that part of it is, so if Stuart McCall complained about that, you would go, wow, must be hard if he's complaining. But Stuart McCall had another 10 players in that team, all as good as what he was. You cannot say that Tavernier's been playing with 10 guys as good as what he's done or have contributed. And that, I think, that psychological damage, residual damage, which is there after game after game after game, after result after result, after season, eventually is taking its toll.
And also, I just want to touch on Iggerman. I think he's had a good start to his Rangers career, and he does have potential to be a real top player. He still was a wee bit raw, but he's got huge potential, in my opinion. But this is the question I want to ask you, Stuart, right? See if a club were to come in for him in January, hypothetically speaking, they make an offer for about 8 to 10 million. Do you think Rangers would jump at that?
Of course they would.
But that's the thing.
Full stop, right? Rangers have let better players than him go for money. Right through their history. All of this, the Rangers stay loyal. No, they don't. There's so many players that they've sold at the drop of the hat just because they're going to make profit and think they'll improve things. And he's just the same. You think back to other strikers and other players, and I know the circumstances were probably a bit different. But Everton came in for Jelavic. Did Rangers try to keep him? No, they were getting too much money for him. Rangers, Kenny Miller was going elsewhere. Did Rangers try and keep? No, he was going elsewhere, and they were going to bring money in. So he's not the first. He will definitely not be the last either. So if Rangers want to get an offer, bite their hands off it and then go for somebody who, you do a bit more in-depth analysis on, do a bit more study on, rather than hoping to buy somebody who's got a bit of potential and then see if they make good. Don't be frightened to buy somebody aged 27, 28, 29 if he's an out-and-out goal scorer. You know what I mean? And you don't need to go back that far in history to see who Rangers had. Bringing in Jermaine Defoe, look at the effect that he had in that squad. Look at the effect that he had in that team. And it was way past his prime, but could do a job. I think this fixation they've got, they need to buy to sell bigger. No, it doesn't always work that way. If you look at some of them, some of the players that Rangers are signed, that model has definitely not worked at Ibrox.
Because that's the thing, I was just going to say there, see if Rangers kept him for another year, they would obviously get more, and he does well, right? They would obviously get more than 8 to 10 million for him. Do you think they would? Or do you think?
Hit my dump.
Do you not think so?
Exhibit A, Morelos.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I was about to come on to that. Yeah, Morelos and Ken. We should have cashed in them, and then obviously they left for free, which was just a disgrace. We let 2 players like that go for nothing.
But instead of putting their hands on an agent who would have sold them and got them sold, it was like, well, let's see who else comes in with a big offer. Sorry, nobody else was coming in with a big offer. If somebody makes an offer of that kind of money, well, if they get that for him and they get that for him, we should be getting this for him. It doesn't work that way. does not work that way at all. So don't kid yourself on that somebody's going to improve. Doesn't always happen.
And that's the thing. I think Rangers will have learnt from their mistakes from the past. And as we all know, Rangers' player trading model over the years has been pitiful, to say the least, mate. It's been pitiful. I think the last player that we got big money for was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Nathan Patterson.
Patterson.
Yeah, I think that was about 16 million or something like that, yeah.
Well, whatever it was, him and around that time, Rangers sold pretty well. Bassey was another one they got.
Bassey's, oh yeah, Bassey.
They get decent money for.
Yeah.
But again, for me, the season they had, Bassey looked for me as a guy that you could almost build the entire team around. He was such a dominant defender, and really was somebody you could say would be a mainstay of your team. Big offer comes in, he's gone. That's the way it is in football. Unfortunately, that's the way you could say it's always been at Rangers, going back to the days of Jim Baxter and all the rest of it. It hasn't always meant it doesn't matter how high they are or how high the opinion of our players and how they're held in the hearts of fans and all the rest of it. You get a big enough offer to go.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's just the way it goes. And of course, Celtic dropped points today. Stewart drawn 0-0 against Dundee United. Now, that obviously means the gap is 9 points. But do you think, right, if Rangers beat Celtic in January, the title race is back on?
No. Because I cannot. No, because again, even though there's this level of improved, have you really improved? No, you haven't. Because Celtic were there for the beating last week and you could not beat them. They are your biggest rivals. They dropped 2 points at Dundee United. Oh, Celtic, a bit of a tailspin there. Yeah, they're now only 9 points in front of you. Don't kid yourselves on. 9 points means that you have to win 3 games more than they do. Do you see Celtic not winning 3 games more or less than Rangers between now and the end of the season? I think you not only have you had, look at the world through blue tinted glasses, you get blue tinted contact lenses in as well. It would make a fantastic story if it happened. But if you're playing, people say, oh, if you're out in front and you're a front runner, teams can catch you. No. It doesn't always work that way. If you've got the points in the bag and you've got the scores in the doors and you've got that kind of gap, really, you do not expect these teams to lose. And again, the big word that you used in that sentence there, if Rangers were to win, again, there's no guarantee. It was like last week, League Cup final, Celtic still won it. What makes you think that the next time there's an Old Firm game, that if Rangers turn up, they're going to win it? For me, there's no evidence of that.
Yeah. And also, you mentioned the League Cup final, Stuart, and as we all know, Rangers should have had a Stonewall penalty. That was clear as day. And of course, the VAR audio was released during the week, and it was not a good look for Muir and Connor at all. It was pretty embarrassing. No, not pretty embarrassing. It was very, very embarrassing. But in terms of the response from Rangers to it, Stuart, do you think it was strong enough?
Thanks again there. If Stuart is a Rangers fan, then the earth is flat. Hold on. Ouch. That really hurt.
I'm coming for you tonight, mate.
I know. Open your eyes and watch what's there. Know what you think's there. No, listen. The whole thing. The whole thing with the cup final last week and the penalty and all the rest of it. Pick up the paper the next day, and Celtic have still won it. Doesn't matter a damn what anybody says. Is the game going to get replayed? This isn't Belgium. This is not Belgium. The Belgians might have more morals and more fibre about them and more minerals and balls to actually say, no, this wasn't right. Will that happen in Scotland? No, it won't happen in Scotland. Don't kid yourselves on. So it was a bad decision. Everyone knows it was a bad decision. Even people that had nothing to do with refereeing thought it was a bad decision. Even people that had a lot to do with refereeing said it was a bad decision. Has it changed anything in the last week? We are now an entire week past when that decision was made and nothing's changed. So, get on with it. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get a replay suddenly next February. Take it to and if you're really desperate, take it to the court in Switzerland and see if they can overturn it for you. No, it's not going to happen. And again, all this if, buts, and maybes. Maybe if you'd asked the guys that could have done their job last week and put the ball in the net when they were supposed to do it and take penalties when they were supposed to do it, you may have had a better shout.
I was actually this one as well, right? See, of course, we were all raging with that decision, right? And that it was clear as day, Stonewaller, right? But see, with the way some Rangers fans are reacting, do you not think it's a bit like the way Celtic fans would react after like the smallest decision that would go against them?
Yes, next.
Yeah, yeah. I have to admit, when I'm on X and I see some Rangers fans go on, I think it was like 4 or 5 days after the final. I'm like, right, we know it was a bad decision. Give it a rest now. Like I was sick of seeing it. Like just like the same picture, the same video over and over again. I'm just like, right, guys, we lost. It was a sore one, bad decision, but let's just move on from it.
The circumstances behind it, the circumstances and what is the evidence, what's been evident since then, and whether you like the head of refereeing or you don't like him or you think he's this, that, and the next thing, at least they had the balls this week to come out and say, yeah, they made a mistake. The difference between having the balls and really showing them off is sacking them. You're not fit for purpose, but Scotland don't have an abundance of referees or officials. You only need to look at what's happened in like FIFA and UEFA. Who was the last Scottish referee to referee at a World Cup?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's where Scotland are in the pecking order, or where they're or where they're looked upon is in terms of producing officials. So listen, if they were that bad, they should be sacked in the spot. I don't care how much other people are sacked for not being efficient, not being good at what they do. I don't think referees and linesmen should be any different in that occasion. But again, has that happened? Think about it. Think about this logically. You are wanting a game to be replayed like they did in Belgium, and Scottish authorities don't have the balls to sack the people that made that decision. So what's your chances of getting a replay? None. Open your eyes.
Yeah, I would like that's one thing I was cringing at as well. Like I've seen quite a few people say, "Oh, this game should be replayed." Like, no, let's move on. We need to move on from it. But just to finish off, Stuart, of course, Rangers have picked up a bit of form over the last few weeks. But in terms of the manager, has your opinion changed on Clement?
No. I think listen, it will take something special. And I don't just mean beating Celtic for once. And I don't just winning the League Cup, which, to be honest, in Scottish football terms, is a bauble compared to the other prizes that are there. It doesn't get you into Europe. It isn't even terrestrial television. That's how big the League Cup is. So don't kid yourself on there. If he puts together a team that you can go, they're going out on Wednesday night to play St Johnstone or Hearts or whoever it might be, and they're just going to win comfortably and get the game done and move on to the next game, that's a starting point. If you get a run of success in terms of winning a couple of trophies, maybe then, until he does any of those things, he is no different. I know he walked through the door, picked up somebody else's team and picked up the League Cup last year. But what's he done since then when he has been the main man? What has he done since then when he's the main man and picking the team and bringing in the players and doing the recruitment and all the rest of it? For me, I don't think very much. I don't think very much. I remember, I go back to when Alex McLeish came in as Rangers manager. He's not good enough to be Rangers manager and all the rest of it. Really? Look at the trophies that he won. Okay, change days. Look at the players he had available to him. But for me, it's going to take something special for me to win me over in terms of Clermont. And I still go back to last March or April, whatever it was, when Rangers had 2 games to go 2 points clear in the title race, and they blew it.
Yep. But that's the thing with Clermont, Stuart. Do you think the board will, like this season, right? You say things like get worse. Do you think the board would pull the trigger on him?
Listen, would the Rangers board? The Rangers board be made up. It's like a wee Johnny Watson doing one of his sketches. It's like spin the bottle or switch the music off. Oh, you're the chairman this week, or you're the CEO this week. Maybe now there's some semblance of order in the boardroom, some semblance of order in terms of the management structure, senior management structure at Ibrox. Maybe then they can make decisions. But I don't think there was anybody actually capable of deciding whether Clermont was a good or bad or indifferent manager. And I would have taken exception to somebody on high at Rangers for a period of time making any decision about me. No, he's still going to have to prove himself on so many fronts before I buy my half and half Philippe Clermont scarf.
Yeah. And just one last question, Stuart. But what do you make of just seeing when it comes to the press conferences, right? With Clermont, see last year, he came across brilliantly. I thought when he first arrived, for the first 2 or 3 months, he was saying all the right things. He had a real presence about him. But now it's just some of the stuff he comes out with. It's like last week I seen he was talking about how some of the players are getting cooking lessons and that. I'm like, why are you coming out and saying this?
Obviously, they're specialising in mince or tripe. But the thing with Clermont was he came in, and there's a progression, and you're there, and you're working your way through the months, through the games, through the season, all the rest of it, and and you've got a kind of free passage for a period of time, and then people start to notice this team's not got this player or that player. You've let this guy go. You don't have any cover here. There's another game, an away game you didn't get a result at. There you are. Your biggest rivals are 2 points, 4 points, 8 points in front of you. You start to notice these things, and that builds up pressure on managers and coaches. I don't think the way it's structured now. Oh, everybody sits in and they're all bestie pals, and nobody wants to say anything at a press conference in case they get thrown out. I said, for me, if you had to be thrown, you had to be thrown out of Ibrox or Celtic Park at some point in time. You weren't doing your job properly. It was. I'm not saying it's a badge of honour, but you had to be doing your job. In terms of Celtic, if I went any more than 8 weeks or 10 weeks without getting a letter from Fergus McCann, I was disappointed. So, at some point, the people that are asking the questions and are making these observations have got to actually take it for what it is. Do they see an improvement on it? I don't know if they do or not. I certainly don't.
No, definitely, Stuart. And Stuart, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. You've been on top form tonight, as you always are.
Well, maybe next time I'll not have a drink before I come on. It was. I'll not tell you what I was drinking right enough.
Tell us
I've had too many. I was driving today, so I've had too many pints of Guinness 0.0, which I have to say, because doing especially nicely. But no, it's just before we go. It never ceases to amaze me. The people that come on and write their sort of catty and wee bitchy comments. That doesn't include everybody. It just includes the ones that hide behind the faceless wonders out there, and there's a lot of them. But the fact is that there's a lot of people out there that listen to Gersnet, and different people have mentioned to me that, or not to me, but to other people, my son and wife and all the rest of it. That there's I listen to him on a Sunday night or a Friday night or whenever he's on. A couple, Gordon McDonald, if you're out there, and also Scott Roy, who's doing a grand job working with my son, or get my son to work for him. More to the point, they actually listen to it, so it's always nice to get a bit of feedback of, as I say, of people who are real and not hiding behind any avatars.
Mate, I get them on X all the time. It's
listen,
always the ones. It's always the ones that there's no profile picture.
trust me. People say, "Oh, are you not affected by what people say on social media?" No, no. When you get a bag of shite sent through to you at the Evening Times saying, "Put this in your paper because it's all you ever do," then that is maybe, it was actually quite amusing, but it was also that's a wee bit more disconcerting than anything somebody's got to say on social media.
That's it, Stuart. And I hope you have a fantastic Christmas, mate. And it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you tonight.
Yeah, just to wish everybody out there, I hope Santa Claus is good to you. I hope he maybe brings you another couple of points to narrow that gap. It'd be interesting if it was. But to you and yours, everybody out there, enjoy your Christmas. I hope you get everything you hope for and everything you wish for. Stay safe and remember, follow the Rangers.
I definitely, sure. And thank you very much for listening, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas. And until next time, we'll take care and we'll see you soon.